If I say mid-engine Italian sports car to you, you probably think Lamborghini or Ferrari, but this month at Manor Park Classics we have a Fiat X1, the world's first affordable mid-engine sports car. These little things were launched in 1972, and this is based on the mechanical components of the Fiat 128, itself a fantastically engineered little family car. You see, Fiat at the time were riding an absolute wave of engineering brilliance led by Dante Giacosa, following on from the likes of the Austin Mini and Morris 1100, and preceding the likes of the Volkswagen Golf, who used cars like the 127 and 128 as the basis for their new range of front drive cars. So really, this era of Fiat is the baseline for the entire modern motor industry. It sounds amazing to say, but it absolutely is. And the X1 came out as kind of a successor to the Fiat 850, which was rear-engined, but rather than become front-engine front-wheel drive like the 128, this car has its engine in the middle, driving the rear wheels. Now, being based on the 128 means it has McPherson struts all round, so we'll go for a drive in a minute, but that means that it has fabulously controlled suspension. Of course, it has no power steering, so you get loads of feel through it, but the main attraction is at the back, beneath this engine cover. Because in the late 1960s, Fiat brought in a man named Aurelio Lampredi to design their new engines. And he came up with two different ones. A big twin-cam engine that was used for many years and was even used in very modified form in cars like the Lancia Delta Integrale. But this little single overhead cam Lampredi engine was used in cars like the 127, 128 and the X1. Originally they came as only 1300s, but this later car is a 1500. But why is Aurelio Lampredi so special, and why should we care so much? We're gonna have to go for a drive to find out. Aurelio Lampredi went to Fiat from Ferrari, where he designed proper Ferrari racing engines. And that means that this has a lot of that feeling within it. So that little single overhead cam Lampredi engine is an absolute joy to pedal about in. It just revs its little head off so nicely. And the point of having this fundamentally brilliant layout with the engine behind you means that the car always feels very delicately balanced. For a little 70s sports car, it actually has an incredibly good ride quality because the McPherson struts allow a lot of suspension travel, and so it doesn't feel uncomfortable at all actually. But when you do chuck it into a corner, it just has a brilliant level of poise to it. It's certainly not flat, but it's lithesome and delicate in the fingers. And the steering has loads of weight to it as well, in spite of the fact that there's very little weight over the front axle. And the pedal placement's very Italian as well. All the pedals are over virtually on the passenger side. But then you open the taps and you have that beautiful scream from that Lampredi engine behind you. It is absolutely joyous. What I'm surprised at actually is how incredibly confidence-inspiring it is to drive, because it's very easy to drive and all the controls have such a brilliant weight to them that it really does fill you with confidence so quickly. And don't forget, of course, that having very highly revving engines, engines that don't have all that much torque, that really thrive on revs, were rare back in the early 1970s. It was a very Italian characteristic to have something like this. Never mind in a normal passenger car like the 128, but especially in the likes of the X1, where it just felt all that much more exotic compared to the, very lumpy overhead valve engines that we had in Britain at the time. Just a very, very different kettle of fish. And quite frankly, it's one of my favourite cars I've ever driven, this. It's not enormously quick. This is a 1500 with a 5-speed gearbox, a later car, and that means it makes 85 brake horsepower. It's not a huge amount, but what it does have is character and feeling in absolute spades. All of those, you know, silly adjectives that lovers of old cars always give you. This is the epitome of all that. It's an absolutely joyous little thing.